John, I always love doing this show with you, but today I've been thinking all week, boy, what should we do with the Casey O'Brien news? And of course, you're leading your show with Casey O'Brien. Tell us what's going on with one of our favorite young men.
Yeah, he is one of the best people I know. Casey O'Brien, people probably know him from his time with the Gophers football team. This is a kid, I think he's only 25 years old. He's been dealing with cancer on and off since he was, 11 or 14 or something. And just super inspirational. His story is well known. He was first diagnosed in 2013, cancer in a knee. He had basically a knee replaced. He's had 6 different cancer diagnoses, and in recent days we've learned diagnosis number 7 is here. The kid's had more than 40 surgeries, 20 plus chemotherapies, immunotherapies. He's been in the hospital well more than a year of his life. He was a kick holder on the Gophers football team. His dad, Dan O'Brien, is a former assistant coach with the Gophers, now the head coach at Holy Family Catholic. And the thing with Casey, he's faced all this. He's conquered all this, but he's done so much. He has helped raise millions of dollars to support the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota to help kids and families. And now cancer's back for Casey. He posted a social media item with a link to a GoFundMe. He said it's in a lungs, liver, and lower back, and basically the procedures he'd like to do. It's cutting edge stuff. Basically, the old standards. They've decided that's not going to work for Casey, so he's going to do procedures. I know he's going to a hospital in Chicago next month. Insurance isn't covering this for some dumb reason. We can argue about insurance all the time, but there's a GoFundMe. I gave a little donation last evening on Monday night, and here we are Tuesday afternoon. I just looked at it. Their goal is $250,000. It's not even 24 hours since that page went up, and they're right around 200,000. And that tells you how people feel about Casey O'Brien. So if you want to help, just search Casey O'Brien GoFundMe. You'll see that page. He's a heck of a young man. I think the world of his dad, whom I've known for maybe 20 years before Casey. Well, Casey was little, not before he was born. But yeah, it's terrible news. But by golly, if anybody can beat cancer, it's Casey O'Brien. So he's in our thoughts and prayers, and we're hoping for good news.
His father, Dan, football coach, formerly with the Gophers, did some administrative stuff with the Gophers as well, just a purely class act. So all the best to Casey, and if you can help, please help. This is Preps Today with John Millay. He's John Millay with the MSHSL.org. This is our Prep Sports Show at TalkNorth.com. We've got it all covered. We've got Russo on hockey, Kevin Gorg on hockey, myself, Lavelle, and Roy Smalley on baseball. John on Preps, Jeff Diamond, the former Vikings general manager, on the Vikings, John Krasinski on the Wolves. Myself and John Krasinski also do the Viking Update Show. We've added Randy Shaver and his love of high school football to the network. We got Mike Grimm on the Gophers, outdoor content. Yes, we have a lot of stuff. If you like a show, including this one, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank our longtime sponsor, Pizza Barn in Princeton. And thank you for listening. We do appreciate it. All right. Well, best of luck to Casey O'Brien. And now let's talk about the heroes at Tartan.
Yeah, more heroic people involved in medical things. On last week's podcast, I teased a story that I was about finished with then. It's about organ donation. And that story is up on John's Journal at mshsl.org for anyone who cares to read it. It's really something. The story revolves around 2 assistant football coaches at Tartan High School in Oakdale. Randy Taylor, he's 70 years old. He's been an assistant there for 28 years. Randy needed a kidney, and he needed a kidney for the second time. He had a kidney donation 20 years ago. A sister-in-law of his was a match. He got a kidney. Well, he needed the other one replaced. So this time, John Wessel, another assistant coach at Tartan, John just turned 50 this week. He volunteered to be tested to see if he was a match, and he was. This was really, I'm not going to say this was challenging, but, these are emotional things. And thank goodness the result here is phenomenally great. But I went to a practice early last week at Tartan just to shake hands with Randy and John and shoot some photos of them with the football team. I had talked to Matt Deidecker, the head coach, previously. He was a tremendous help. He had the perspective of seeing both of these guys on his coaching staff, how they worked together and how this thing came to be. And I ended up talking with Randy and John on the phone for very long periods of time. And, you've done this, Jim, sitting down to write something like this. Once you've done all the reporting, holy mackerel, it's emotional to write this stuff, and those guys were telling me the emotions they went through, just the roller coaster. And John also walked me through all the steps that are necessary. Just, if you want to donate a kidney or whatever it is, this is not easy. He said he went through every imaginable test. He told me he had more blood tests and urine tests for this than during his entire previous 49 years. He said there were angiograms, x-rays, MRIs, everything you could imagine, without going into the details. And there's a lot of them, and many of them are in the story. Basically, the donor of the kidney and the recipient have to have the same blood type. I think people understand that. They were both O positive. That's a hurdle they cleared. But since Randy had received another kidney 20 years ago, John's antibodies had to match the antibodies of the donor from 20 years ago. And that was a long shot, but son of a gun, everything matched.
Wow.
They had the surgical procedure earlier this year. They're both healthy now. It's great to see them on the football field. They both really have a lot of appreciation for each other and medical science. Now, I haven't said anything about race. Randy's black and John is white. And here's the quote from Randy Taylor, the recipient of 2 kidneys from 2 white people. He said, quote, "We've got all these struggles in the world about what race you are, the color of your skin. It doesn't mean a thing because I've got 2 kidneys from white people inside me." So again, this is a remarkable story about remarkable people, and I was really honored to write it. And people who haven't seen it, go to mshsl.org, scroll down just a bit. You'll find John's journal. You'll see that story. Click on it, and it's these are some incredible people, Jim.
That's fantastic. Great story and great sentiments as well. So thank you for telling us about that. We're going to get to a memorable 0 week interview of the year, a day for theater, and we're going to have John thank a ref. But first, we do want to thank our longtime sponsors, Jody Stay Pizza Barn in Princeton.
You got it. August is winding down. The state fair is getting close to the end, so you better hustle to the Pizza Barn in downtown Princeton to get your hands on the August Pizza of the Month, the Alabama Slammer. It's a joint venture with OMC Smokehouse in Duluth, using their recipe for Alabama white sauce. That's the base. There's shredded braised chicken thighs, mozzarella cheese. It's baked to perfection. And we're keeping our eyes open for the September Pizza of the Month because, as always, it'll be something special. People in Princeton already know this, but this evening, as we're talking, July 27th, the Pizza Barn will hold a special back-to-school event. It's a dinner buffet. Low prices for kids and adults. We eat pizza, mac and cheese, chicken fries, salad, a lot more on the buffet, just to give families a little bit of a breather as they're getting ready for the new school year. It's just another way that the Pizza Barn focuses on the community. So thanks again to our great friend Jody Stay and her crew at the Pizza Barn. They will take care of you. You'll have a meal to remember in a very friendly and comfortable setting.
Yes, thanks to Jody. Thanks to good people of Princeton. And again, we're coming from the Aquarius Home Services studio, and let's get on to a memorable 0 week.
Yeah, I talked last week about the first football game of the season. This was a new thing, as far as I know, only 1 0 week football game. This was at the Vikings TCO Stadium in Eagan, Breck, and St. Anthony Village, 2 metro schools. The game was a bit of a mismatch. St. Anthony Village won 39-7. There were some conditions for Breck that weren't optimal. They only had 18 players. That makes it tough. And there was a new twist on 0 week that I'd never heard before. Breck had only 2 weeks of practice instead of the usual 3. St. Anthony Village had 3 weeks of practice. If you're going to play a 0 week game, you start practice a week early. St. Anthony Village did that. Breck didn't start a week early. So they were really in a hole from the get-go. Neither team had played a 0 week game before. if you're not familiar with how this works, you're not familiar. I don't think the Breck people were aware they could practice a week early. So it was a little bit of an eye-opening thing for everybody. And now this week, we're into week 1 of the regular season. There'll be 102 games Thursday night, 71 on Friday, as every other team in the state. From 9-player through 6A, they get going. I've got my plans made. I'm going to make the short drive on Thursday night to Apple Valley High School. They're going to host Rochester John Marshall, and that's a Thursday night game. I'm going to talk about that in a minute in the next topic here about John Marshall. Friday, I'm excited. I'm driving down to southeast Minnesota near the Iowa border for a big 9-player game in Spring Valley, where Kingsland will host Leroy Ostrander, Lyle Pacelli. This is some good 9-man football. Kingsland was a state runner-up last year. Leroy Ostrander won a state title 3 years ago, so I'm looking forward to this. I think the weather's going to be great. We endured some hot, humid, stormy weather already this week, but it's looking good for the rest of the week here. I'm excited. And the football season, I'm just going to remind people again, the Prep Bowl is a week early this year. It's not Thanksgiving weekend. I'm excited. I get to have a normal Thanksgiving weekend. Thanksgiving is late. It's November 28th, which in parentheses is also my birthday. So yes. I'm going to have a relaxing birthday. So the games are November 22nd and 23rd, the Friday and Saturday before Thanksgiving. Put it on your calendar. You're going to have Thanksgiving weekend free. There's no football, no high school football. So that's a long ways off. Like I said, we've just gotten started.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And now let's move on to what sounds very promising as well. Interview of the year.
Yeah. Speaking of Rochester John Marshall, this is incredible. We're only 1 game into the football season. We've already seen a just fantastic, honest, one of the most moving little interview clips I've ever seen down in Rochester. KTTC sports anchor and reporter Nick. I'm gonna butcher Nick's last name. Nick Speliopoulos. I hope I'm close. He interviewed Kyle Riggett, who's the head coach at Rochester John Marshall. By all accounts, it's a run-of-the-mill preseason TV interview. A little clip here. Who you got coming back? What are your expectations? And Nick, who I don't know well, I've met Nick at a couple of events down there. Nick asked this incredibly insightful question to Kyle. Quote, "You have a great privilege to shape so many malleable lives. What does that mean to you to not only coach football, but be an impressionable force in these kids' lives?" And you could see, looking at the video, and I've tweeted it, you'll find it. Go to MSHSL John on Twitter. It's incredible. Nick was caught off guard, to say the least, by the question. His first words out of his mouth, he was fighting back tears. He says, "You got me, Nick." He was emotional. He was hesitating, kind of clearing his throat, trying to get some words together. It was really something. And then his answer was just beyond anything you'd expect to hear. So here's his answer. Quote, "Coaching football is a calling for me. I feel good that I get to use my gifts every minute I'm out there, every minute I'm in with the kids, with things like leadership council. We do community service. We do dinners. We just get together. We did a senior camp in Whitewater. We took them out in the wilderness. We got them alone. We went up to Bemidji as a team. We did all these things. We get to do football, but to just do life with these guys, it's special, 100%. And I underestimated the power of it when I took the job. You nailed it on the head that it's a privilege to work with these guys every day and to do it as a calling. It's awesome. It really is. And I think this is Kyle's 3rd year as the head coach. And that's part of the reason I'm going to go watch John Marshall play at Apple Valley on Thursday night. I want to chat with Kyle and talk about that. If you haven't seen it, go to MSHSL John on Twitter, or if you have a Threads account, John Millay MN. It's posted in both places. It's just I've been doing this so long, Jim. When I think I've seen everything, I'm never going to be amazed again. I haven't seen anything, and just a coach. First off, the question from Nick. I don't think many of us ask that kind of a question, and we should. It's a great question. But then the coach's answer, just one of the greatest little 15, 20-second video clips you'll see.
That's fantastic. When, and it could be a coach, could be an English teacher, it could be a band director. An English teacher was a big influence on my life. One of my children, the band director was the biggest influence in their life, outside their parents. Could be a football coach, a track coach, could be anybody. I mean, and I really, we say often we're both married to educators. It's great when the people who have that power recognize that power.
Yeah. It's just, it was sweet. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. It was just so sweet. Yeah.
Great work. Yeah. All right, let's move on to a day for theater.
Yeah, I spent some time at St. Michael Albertville High School one day last week for this really neat event that I had never heard of anything like it before. They hosted a theater festival that was just packed with clinics, hands-on sessions, and a lot more. They brought in kids from, a whole bunch of schools, I think 20-some schools. Kids did it for free. There was no charge because of a grant from, I'm not sure where the grant was from. I'd have to go to my notes for that story, but it was really neat. They had theater professionals flying in from New York and Chicago to work with these kids. And the list of sessions, here's just a few of them. Characters. Let's learn about characters, about monologues, acting basics, hip hop, working with masks, makeup, set design, costume design, fighting with hands, clubs, and knives on stage. My personal favorite was called Blood and Guts Special Effect Makeup. So this thing was like from 9 to 5. Everybody got lunch. They had fun activities. And they fed everybody in a unique way. They had food trucks there. Wouldn't you know it? One of those Pizza Barn food trucks was there by the time I arrived. The lunch break was over, so I didn't get any pizza. My bad. But the truck was still there. I got a picture of it outside the school. They had a whole bunch of colleges with tables there to talk to prospective students, whether they're involved in or want to continue to be involved in theater or not. It was really neat. And I'm in the midst of writing about this. I'm doing some interviews about it. It was just a really cool thing. And there'll be a story posted on John's Journal in the coming days.
That's fantastic. Great, man, what a great show this has been. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up with one of our set pieces. Let's thank a ref.
Yeah, the first Thank a Ref photo of the year that I posted on social media. I didn't take it. Somebody in Lake City did. It shows the 3-person crew that worked a soccer game in Lake City. Friday night at my 0-week football game, I did the same thing. It was a crew. I don't think I knew any of these officials, but I usually, when they take the field, I like to introduce myself and try to get a picture. We did that. And this Thank a Ref social media program, which I don't even remember how long ago. It's been a long time. It was just so organic when it started. I just took a picture of some officials and tweeted it out and said, hey, let's thank these guys. Let's thank a ref. Let's thank these people. And it's really become this big deal, just to see that photo from Lake City. Some people are just trained now. Let's publicize our officials. It's received national attention. It's the least we can do for all those dedicated folks. So it's great to get that started again with a new school year and to keep thanking those officials because we can't do it enough.
Great stuff. Our thoughts go out to Casey O'Brien, and thanks for all the great stuff, John. You made me all emotional, all kinds of different ways.
Yeah, I did. I wrote about Casey about a year ago. He was, I don't know if he's still an assistant coach for his dad at Holy Family, but he was last year, and I'd known him before that. So I reposted that story on John's Journal today. And talk about a heartbreaking piece of news. But like I said, if anybody can whip this thing, it's Casey O'Brien, and we're all in his corner.
Fantastic. Thank you, John. Enjoy your 0 week. We'll talk to you next week.